How's it going, guys? As you know, I was waiting on my Bigscreen Beyond 2E to arrive, and I'm wearing it right now, which means I'm also using my Vibe Tracker 2 or 3. I think it might be Vibe Tracker 3s. Either way, I've got my most recent laser base station Vibe Trackers on instead of the Vibe Tracker Ultimates. I've got eye tracking, which I had with the Vive Focus Vision. But I have some thoughts about this headset because this thing is cool in so many ways, but I really want to talk about my initial impressions with it and kind of talk to you about whether or not you should get one, because this thing is like insane. Like right now, I am standing in the rooftop, what is it? Rooftop Escape? Midnight Rooftop. And this is a map that I think 1,000,001 people have been in. You've probably been here too. And it is a very pretty map. And in this headset, it feels realer than I think it's ever felt. The dust particle right there. It just feels so much realer than it ever has for me. And yeah, this is a cool headset. Part of the reason I'm doing this video is because my initial impressions are so good, but then also because I'm worried for it because yeah, we'll talk about it. So yeah, hello and welcome. My name is Wolfy. You're watching Less Than Cake, the channel where I talk about video games inside of a video game. And this is VR chat. But you would probably already knew that. So the Bigscreen Beyond 2E. What is it like to use a headset that is like $1,200 without controllers, base stations, trackers, anything? Or even the audio strap, because I bought that too. So first and foremost, this thing is crazy in like the best ways possible. I have this thing paired with my Knuckles controllers, which I got with my Index years back. And so I had a lot of the kit already, which is why the cost of this one doesn't really affect me as badly as it could have. But this headset is kind of crazy. It's got an OLED screen. It's 4K per eye. It's like 2560 by 2560 per eye at 90 hertz. And the 90 hertz is lower than the Index and the Vive Focus Vision. And I think it's gonna be lower than the potential max refresh rate of the upcoming Steam Frame. But because it's OLED, things are a little bit different. Movement in this thing is incredibly smooth, and that's entirely because of that OLED. So despite me panning my head quickly or moving quickly, everything remains perfectly visible, perfectly clear, and almost more normal because there's no screen flicker. And because of that lack of screen flicker, everything's just kind of more instantaneous. And it's really, really cool. It's really, really hard to explain. And apparently some people even have issues with it. I did not know that there were people who had OLED sensitivity, but some people do. But that is something to consider if you are looking into this headset. One of the benefits of OLED is that black is black. Let me just grab a prop from off screen really quickly. This is a black pillow. And what's crazy about what I'm seeing right now in headset, in monitor, you're probably seeing a kind of a gray color. And I wouldn't be surprised if like, even in the recording, it comes out more gray just because color grading and stuff. But what I'm seeing is there are spots of this that are so black that the only thing that I'm seeing shimmering through are the little tiny sequins inside of the shader. And that's crazy cool. Essentially, because OLED can turn off each individual pixel, it's capable of replicating black in a way that LCD just can't do. I can distinguish between every black in this room, between the night sky, the wires, the pillow that I just threw over there, and it's defying gravity. That's kind of cool. The individual wires, everything in this room has different shades and they don't turn into just one. And it's actually really, really cool. It also helps with immersion. So one of the first games I tested with this headset was Half-Life Alyx. And that's because Half-Life Alyx is just a really good benchmark for VR headsets. It's better for immersion than most games. It's fully fledged out and works well with the Knuckles. And so because of that, I was able to test in detail how good the black levels and everything would be with this headset. And let's just say I got to the dark section and I was like, okay, this is a little scary. I played through Alex so many times that I don't generally get scared anymore, but that got me. And I did get through it. And then I stopped playing immediately after that just to take a break. And not because the headset was too heavy, but because I was so immersed in the experience that I thought Alex could definitely use a breather after that. Regardless, I had a great time, and that was a nice 3-ish hour session. And honestly, I didn't really feel much fatigue. And that's partially due to the fact that this headset is so light. So this headset actually weighs a little bit less than some gaming mice, which is kind of insane. With the head strap, it's a little bit more, but that head strap's more for comfort than anything else. And there's both a cloth strap and the audio strap, which I bought the audio strap in order to, make this work. And I gotta say, comfort-wise, this thing is in a league of its own. It's not heavy. I can move it around like crazy. It's not gonna move. It's not moving from my face. And that's because of the two factors. One being the custom face gasket, which yes, I did do, which meant I had to send in a face scan into Bigscreen, and the audio strap, which it kind of holds it. It's like the Pro strap for the Quest where it holds the back of your head. There's actually no support on the top whatsoever. It's just open. And it's kind of cool how the whole thing comes together. Like getting in and out of this headset is crazy easy. It's like putting on a pair of swimming goggles. And the initial effect that you get when you do that is trippy. Because I'm used to huge chunky VR headsets. You get in there, the world's expanding in front of you, typical VR stuff. This, it's like a little tiny pair of goggles. You put them on and the VR world is there. And I haven't had that feeling since I first put on the Quest and hopped into VR chat for the first time. It made it feel new almost. And it was almost like a crazy experience to re-experience what it was like to put on a VR headset again. Now, I think you can already see that tracking quality wise, this thing is pretty good. Now we are using knuckles for the actual controllers. And then I've got Vive trackers on my feet. Which Vive tracker, I think the Vive tracker 3s. Can't remember if there's a 3 or a 2. I think that, yeah, there's a 1. I have 2s and I have 3s. I never got 1s. But Vive tracker 3s, they have really good tracking quality. Really your limitation is gonna be on base stations and your environment. And if you never use laser base stations, the darker the room, the better the tracking, along with other tricks that I've done over the years, which is like moving the play space closer to the receivers and then fanning out the receivers so that they're not interfering with each other. All those are little tips and tricks. Now, what I did not know going into this is that I was actually gonna be short 2 Vive receivers. And that is because the receivers for the Vive trackers are also the same receivers for the knuckles. Now, I didn't know that because HTC was never on paper as the manufacturer of the knuckles, but apparently the same code that is used to run these trackers down here is the same kind that's used to run these. That's not a problem when you're running the Index because the Index has the receivers built into the headset itself. And so that was a tricky process as part of the setup, is where I had to repair my PC. And I had not realized that I would be limited on the number of trackers I could wear. I was intending to use full elbow tracking, but because of how robust the actual tracking in IK is with these knuckles controllers, I really don't need to. The other downside is that I currently don't have face tracking other than eye track. And I am going to. I'm working on getting a tracker. It's just taking a long time. I already paid for it like months ago. It's the Babel face tracker, which is an open source face tracker that should allow me to have the same functionality that I would from the Vive Focus Vision on this headset, which is something that I'm actually striving for because I kind of prefer this. The Vive Focus Vision was good, but it was only good. This headset is amazing. And it is like, even though they're about the same price, right? If I had to choose to start over and pay more, get all the base stations and the controllers, assuming that everything would be available still, because we'll talk about that in a moment, but assuming everything's still available and I could do it, I would opt to this over the Vive Focus Vision. And it's not that the Vive Focus Vision was a bad headset. I think that unfortunately it is outdated in comparison to a headset like this. This thing is insane. As a PC VR headset, a PC VR only headset, I should say, this thing is in a league of its own. This headset is what the Index could have been if it actually evolved with time, becoming lighter, more complex with its feature set, and honestly, just better. It has better optics. It's, as I said, it weighs practically nothing. And it is a PC VR headset that's tethered, but it's using that PC to its maximum to actually make all of this happen. It's almost like the perfect maturity of the existing PC VR play space, the base station version of it, I should say. And base stations are an interesting talking point to this because yes, they are more complicated to set up, but as you may have noticed, there are a lot less controller issues than there were on the Inside Out version. That is because my effective range of tracking is, well, infinite in this cube of lasers. I think that's a good way to describe it. Essentially, I've got 3 base stations. 3 base stations. I don't have to do weird gestures anymore. I'm forgetting I have knuckles on, but I have 3 base stations and all 3 of them are in a triangle pattern. I do kind of want a 4th, but given the fact that, well, you know, they've been discontinued and now I have to buy them from HTC and they're more expensive through HTC, I might or may not eventually do that. But right now I have 3. And they're essentially centered so that this one's kind of like right here. This one's a little bit over there. And then I got one right back here. And they work pretty well for what my use case is. The one tricky thing is my feet. And that is because, well, you're tracking something much lower than the base stations are traditionally, you know, positioned. So funny thing is, I think it's that one is positioned lower than that one, which helps with the hands and the headset. I did stuff, I figured it out. I had to tweak it. And that is a bit of a complicated thing that you do end up having to do if you are going to make this into your main type of setup. That being said, tracking wise, other than that, it's kind of perfect. There are still momentary glitches and hiccups, and that kind of just happens, but it's a lot less than the Inside Out tracking. And I don't have to blare all of my lights at full power in order to make the other trackers, the Vive Tracker Ultimates, actually be able to see the environment. So yeah, I honestly think that, as weird as it sounds, despite my previous setup actually being more advanced in like the tech side, this is somehow better in the convenience and, well, more importantly, the actual use case side. Right now, it is the middle of the night and I don't have every light in my apartment on. And it makes it so that I could do this in a more inconvenient way to most people, like everybody else is asleep and I am out here making YouTube videos as an anime girl. You know? That being said, there are some elephants that we need to address in the room. So despite this being the best headset I have ever used, and one that I would recommend to anybody who owns an Index, it's a very difficult headset to recommend to beginners. And that is because of that cost of, well, investment, and more importantly, the difficulty that is going to come in the later years to get everything you need for this headset. Bigscreen only makes the headset, this thing right here. And they make the strap. Essentially everything to the headset is here. They do not make the base stations and they do not make the controllers. Right now I am using Valve Index controllers, which are unfortunately being discontinued. So yeah, you might not be able to get a hold of these in the near future. And because of that, you won't get the cool features like individual finger tracking in a controller that is actually fully usable for VR and tracks very, very well. You know, in general, these are great controllers. There are some controllers that can do some of the features. Shift All has a version that looks like them, but doesn't have the finger tracking. And there's another controller that I saw that's entirely like capacitive sensors, but no buttons. So it's like, you can't really get the perfect version of this because everybody else was trying to do something different than Valve, and now Valve's just dipping out. So it's like, such a frustrating situation. Base stations are less annoying to deal with because, well, HTC took over all production of the base stations. They exist, they're easy to get a hold of, they're just more expensive. So Valve was selling them for about like $150-ish, and HTC is selling them for, I think, $250. I think. I'll have to double check that. I'll put it on the screen. But HTC is selling them for more. Now, do I think that HTC is going to get rid of them? No. And it's because of these vibe trackers. So vibe trackers aren't just used for this. They aren't just used to dance around like an anime girl on the internet. They're also used in things called virtual production studios. And virtual production studios are cool. I love them. I wish I could set one up, but that would be way beyond the amount of tech that I could feasibly cram into my apartment, as much as I want one. And plus, I also do multi-camera, and multi-camera doesn't work for virtual production, but digressing. Essentially, the way that virtual production works is you put a vibe tracker on a camera, and that can then be tracked in a 3D space using base stations, and you can then pair it up with, say, like a screen of some kind, so that you can get a parallax effect as you move the camera around, making it look like that screen is actually a window. And because it looks like a window, it looks really cool. If you've ever seen Nerd Forged, that is the effect they do on that window. It's really cool. I love it so much. But it's not the only place that they used it. The Mandalorian, yes, the show on Disney Plus, also used a virtual production studio that used a very, very similar setup. In fact, there's just a gigantic wall, and it tracks the camera, runs it through Unreal, and then it's like magic. It's really, really cool. But those are very, very, very important clients for HTC. They're buying base stations, they're buying trackers. And because of that, I don't see HTC getting rid of it. Vibe Tracker Ultimates will not cut it for something that needs that much precision. So realistically, that part of the equation is at least doable. The problem that I'm currently seeing that I do think is going to be a major problem is the controllers. The upcoming Steam Frame is probably going to be a better entry point into PCVR for most people. But yeah, that thing's been delayed, and we have no idea when it's coming because it was supposed to come Q1, and Q1 is already partially over. Let's just say I have a rainy day fund set aside for it. I'm waiting for it, Valve, but I also acknowledge that the reason that it's not coming out is because of the RAM shortage, and RAM is only a problem because guess what? It's got a computer on board, unlike this headset, which doesn't have that. So kind of a weird catch-22 there now, isn't it? Digressing. If you are someone who has an Index, already has base stations, already has controllers, this is the most plug-and-play upgrade you could possibly get. You already have all the major fixtures for it, and this just will replace your Index directly. You will have to get a dongle for your controllers, and I think HTC sells the dongles individually, so that's kind of a benefit, I guess. I really wonder if my Ultimate dongle will work with these controllers. Because if it will, then I can get up to the 5 trackers I want. Granted, I don't need as many trackers. That's another thing that's super weird about this. I am only using the controllers and the ones for my feet and waist, and it's working just fine. I don't know. It's so weird. Real talk, guys. Like every single time I have tried to go to standalone VR, I have found that the PC VR setup with the base stations is just better in every way. And it's not that like, I think that there's no improvement to be made. There's definitely improvement to be made in both convenience and ease of use and everything. So I actually started with the Quest 2, and then I bought a Rift S, and then I went to the Index because I liked PC VR more than I liked standalone VR. And then when I got the Index, I was like, hey, you know, it may not have the best specs in the world, but it's still so much more convenient than anything else. And then I went to the Bifocus Vision because I was like, it's an upgrade in every single way. And it gave me nothing but headaches and problems until I eventually got this, the Bigscreen Beyond. And the Bigscreen Beyond has been like flawless ever since. Like I've plugged this thing in and every single time I need to use it, it's ready to go. My setup time for getting into this, the full avatar, the full body tracking, everything goes from the 30-ish minutes to just 10 minutes. I can get in and get going. And that means I can make more content for you guys. But more importantly, it means that when I want to play VR, I just have to start it up, put on my controllers, and run my headset like normal. And that means I can get into Beat Saber, Pistol Whip, or Synth Riders faster and easier. It's so much more convenient. And that is what's worrying me possibly about the Steam Frame, because it's not going to be that. It's still going to have to connect. There's going to be an extra stage, and I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it because of that. I'm worried about it because of full body tracking. I know that doesn't matter to everyone, but the latency between full body tracking and your PC could be, it could be horrendous, or it could be great. We don't know yet. There's a lot to it. It's like I'm trying to be excited about the Steam Frame, but this headset right here is kind of proving to me that we already have pretty much close to perfect. If this just kept getting better and better specs, better and better tracking, better audio, it could go on quite literally forever. But instead, we're getting this weird situation where Valve is cutting this market clean in order to do a Quest 2. Well, better than a Quest 2, a Quest 3. Like, it feels weird. And I don't want to be the person to say that, hey, Valve did this intentionally, but I don't think that Valve could have made a headset that beat this one, or at least wouldn't put in the work to do it. And that's what's weird about this. This will end up being one of the best and easiest recommendations for PCVR only players who already had an index. It's so specific. It's crazy. Sorry, I just needed to kind of rant about that a little bit, because it's one of those things that, like, this thing is cool. It's expensive, unfortunately. And it's weird because in many ways it does feel like I'm entering into my early days of VR again. That joy of playing VR is back. But it's $1,200. It comes with none of the fixtures to actually make it work. And you still got to buy the audio strap on top of it. I do love it. And I mean, even the features like eye tracking, like look at how detailed these eye movements actually are. Like those blinks look so much more natural, but I can see where the Vive Focus Vision has its own extra quirks and benefits. Like I don't have my mouth tracking, like the tongue or anything right now. And so I'm still kind of waiting for that. It's another expense, right? Like this setup is going to be well over $2,000. Probably gonna be like, probably close to almost $3,000 in just parts. Now, when I think about it, because it's $250 at current cost value, $250 plus, I forget what the Vive Tracker 3s cost these days. But like, this setup is insanely expensive and yet totally worth it, in my opinion. Now, do I think that there could be better? Do I think a Bigscreen 3 can come out and like absolutely dethrone this headset? Yeah. I do think, though, that Bigscreen needs to focus in on making their own controllers. I hate to say it, but that seems to be the biggest challenge to this headset right now. If they can make their own controllers and bundle it in, get it around like $1,500, still expensive, but would be a little bit more manageable. I think that that could go a long way into keeping this headset alive and future generations, like the 3rd generation, if it ever comes out, alive as well. I know Pimax is doing their own thing. They're actually making a headset very similar in weight and size to this, but then has some extra cool features in it and even a higher resolution. And that's kind of cool that, like, even though Valve has kind of thrown the baby out with bathwater, all these other companies are still making things to further advance VR. Specifically, tethered PC VR, I should say. And we'll see what happens. Maybe the Steam Frame is amazing and it like completely revolutionizes things. But for now, my recommendation is if you had an index, the Bigscreen Beyond 2E is freaking awesome. But if you didn't, well, you might have missed the ship on this one. But that's where I'm going to end it today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, consider giving a like, maybe comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Wolfy, out.